Hi there, and welcome back to A Moment of Empowerment. I am Evylyn Rose, and I'm giving you this brief video overview designed to help you improve your spiritual health and well being in whatever little way that we can today. If you have not already, please make sure to go back, watch the introduction video for this series. In that video, I go over a little bit of my background, what this video series is about, as well as why I am doing it. With that said, let's go ahead and dive in. So today's topic is your quick guide to occult terms, what those scary words really mean. A common thing that I see within not just the occult communities, but more widespread in the general public, particularly in our English speaking societies. There's a lot of stereotypes, there's a lot of misconceptions, and a lot of it is basically just not knowing the basics of these words. So today's video is all about trying to help break down some of the most common terms that I hear people kind of get a little uncomfortable when they hear those words come up. Okay, so to start with, since the video uses the term occult, I figure why not start there. So occult things are basically just those spiritual beliefs and practices that are outside of the mainstream teachings. This can be both religious and scientific. Um, so we see a couple hundred years ago when we had our cult revival period, that was all about people saying, you know what, hey, this spiritual and religious practices as they are in the mainstream, I'm not really feeling it. It's not really doing it for me. And so there was an entire revival period of like how to still um, have one's religious faith, but still feel that spiritual well being that they were seeking within that. Because at the time, those religions were not fulfilling what they needed. And so they were called a cult as if it were this big, scary, terrible thing because it was outside of the mainstream. I'm oversimplifying just a little bit, so feel free to pick at my very brief overview of that. That said, these again, anything that is occult, it can be both religious and it can be scientific, just depending on the specific thing. It's just something that's outside of mainstream teachings. That's all. Nothing too big, nothing too scary, just a little on the edges of society, if you will. So then we get into arcane. This is a word that comes up a lot. I see it on covers of books. I see it in videos pasted online all over the place. Arcane refers to those words or to those knowledge, to those teachings, and yes, to words that are intentionally hidden or obscured. They are secret in nature. If you want a very modern, very we'll say loud example, think like Epstein files. All the stuff that's in there, that would be arcane. As those files become public, as the data within them becomes public, it is becoming less and less arcane. It is no longer secret. It is no longer hidden. It is no longer obscured. So now it is not arcane. But during Epstein's lifetime and all this stuff was going down, that would be an example of arcane knowledge. Now, within spiritual practices and things of that nature, we see this more in specific traditions and things of that nature that are intentionally kept under wraps for whatever reason. Sometimes that is just the nature of the path. So think like mystery traditions where it is that secrecy component where you're brought into it piece and piece at a time that helps you be empowered within that spiritual tradition. So some of it is arcane for that reason, sometimes for other reasons. It's not all bad stuff. It's just secret. So that said, if you're in Barnes and Noble or another bookshop and you see a book and on that title it tells you, oh, it's all the arcane knowledge, if it's published in the book that you can buy in a bookstore, it is no longer arcane. Maybe it was once upon a time, but it's not anymore. Okay. That brings us into esoteric, which is another term that comes up a lot when you hear the word arcane. More often, what is being presented as arcane is actually esoteric. This is that uncommon knowledge, and it requires dedicated study and practice. Esoteric practitioners are in it for the long haul. It's not a trend. It's not a fad. It's not, that teen angst period. And maybe some people dig into some esoteric practices because it's trendy or there's a fad or they're having a moment of teen angst. That does happen. But the esoteric practices themselves and the practitioners who are serious esoteric practitioners are not those things. So it's just that knowledge that it requires dedicated study and practice. It's kind of like if you want to learn astrology. Astrology is a form of studying using data that's been collected for tens of thousands of years. It is not something super simple that you can learn just opening up a quick book. Um, it's if you open up a book and your head starts spinning, that might be a sign that you're actually on the right beginner path to learning that practice. Um, they're not they're not super easy things. I think in terms of some of the work that specialized engineers or environmental scientists have to do, like that would be esoteric within science, right? Same thing within spirituality. It's something where it's going to take you time to get there. So if you're serious about it, you'll still be serious about it 10, 20, 30 years from now, and the progression will be slow, because that is how knowledge is gained. And that's how you get better. And I say that as a former educator. Okay. Another term you'll see come up a lot is Hermetic. Yes, the term Hermetic relates to Hermeticism, but nowadays you'll hear things referred to as Hermetic, simply because it's esoteric and it's mysterious. So we don't necessarily have an explanation for it. So think about, for those of you who are more science minded and are um, in detail into the different some of those mysteries within science, and it's like trying to uncover those things, but we're not quite there yet to be able to offer an explanation that will stand the test of time, right? They're mysterious. I don't know how it works or why it works. Where did the quirks come from in the first place? Those are mysterious, right? So that could be something considered hermetic, something that requires study, practice, as well as being mysterious. Um, and Hermeticism itself being a philosophical and religious tradition, um, and this is where we get that term Hermetic from, but the two are not necessarily synonymous at all times. So just a little thing to keep your eyes out for whenever you're reading or hearing about anything dealing with occult knowledge. And of course, my favorite term that comes up is metaphysics. So these are those things that are metaphysical. Um, I tend to be very drawn to the metaphysical personally because of my nerdy interests and background within science. Um, but metaphysics is actually a philosophical view. It's not a scientific, it's hands-on approach to things. It's a philosophical examination. So where science is all about let's learn and study and understand the world around us through objective data, metaphysics is that philosophical. So the science is kind of the like let's figure out the how. Metaphysics is the why. Okay, so you will see a lot of metaphysics can be more on the spiritual sides of things. It can also be on the scientific sides of things. So it can be about trying to understand the why behind the things that we cannot yet define with science, right? But it can also do that for science or spiritual and religious practices as well. It's those things that science at this point in time cannot address it, or it seeks to debunk it, but it hasn't quite debunked it yet. Um, and sometimes in attempts of science to debunk something, we actually find, there's something more to it, and we poke and prod a little bit more. We see this a lot with things like ESP and things of that nature. The more there's actual real scientific explorations into it, the more data we learn about actual human capabilities that we didn't know were there. And we start to make more sense of it. But again, it falls under metaphysics when we can't actually measure it with current science. Um, so it's kind of that intermediate place between like it might get debunked one day, it could get proven one day, but we don't know. And that's kind of where metaphysical things are. So it's the trying to explain the why of the universe in the same way the science explains the how of the universe. Um, so this is my metaphysics tend to be my happy place for that reason. Okay. With all of that said, these are the words I wanted to go over with you today. If you'd like to learn more, I do also have a blog that this video corresponds with from February of 2026 called What Esoteric Really Means, a No Fluff Guide for Modern Seekers. Please be sure to check out that article. It goes over each of the words here, except I believe occult might not be in that one, but it does give you a little bit more detail than what I've said out loud in this video. Also, if you enjoyed being able to demystify and break down these words, I do encourage you to try out my 100% free Tarot 101 with Evylyn Rose. This mini course was designed for both seekers and skeptics alike, and one of the things I try to do, particularly within the first lesson, just kind of dumping it all in the beginning, is breaking down, demystifying some of the terms and addressing some of the ways we think about words like tarot and fortune telling, right? So by all means, if you enjoyed this video and this breakdown, please give that a try. Check it out and see if that's for you. You can also join me during my weekly live streams. Currently, these are on Mondays at 1 p.m. Eastern, called my Lunar Lunch Break. Please drop in, get your questions answered live on the air in the chat, or you can reach out via email at any time, and I'm happy to add those questions. If you want me to keep them anonymous, I can. If you'd rather me give you a shout out, I can do that too. Just make sure to let me know, and I'll include those questions into my live streams. And finally, make sure to subscribe if you're not already to the Starlight Circle, become a Moonbeam. I offer exclusive content and more. And of course, any of these links that I have mentioned are in the descriptions below. With all of that said, thank you so much for joining me for this video. I hope this moment of empowerment helped you in some way. And if it did, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe below. Doing so helps others find their way here, as well as helps train those algorithms to understand what you like and need more of in your life. And again, thank you. And please keep radiating hope out into the world.